I knew something wasn't right as soon as I walked inside our suburban house after a demanding day at the architecture business. I was startled to discover Amelia, my mother-in-law, rummaging through our dresser drawers with clothes all over them when I heard muffled sounds drawing me upstairs to our bedroom. What the heck? I froze in the doorway, gasping. Amelia turned and tried to grin, but her gaze fell short of the papers she was holding from my dresser. She remarked jokingly, "I didn't expect you home so early, Alice. I'm merely trying to locate Ethan's birth certificate. For some documents, I need that." "In my underwear drawer?" I asked, astonished by her interference. Amelia dismissively waved a hand. "You never know what can be hiding in plain sight. Also, Ethan gave me a key a long time ago." Trying not to lose my cool, I shot back, "That doesn't allow you permission to invade our privacy whenever you want, and where is Ethan regardless?" Amelia said, working late, as she perused more documents. "Now be kind and help me find that birth certificate." I stomped across the room and grabbed the papers out of her grasp. "No, you must depart. Right now." Amelia's gaze grew strained. "I understand the situation. Alice, you've always been so far from me. My only goal is to support my son." "By plundering our bedroom?" I fired back. "We'll talk about this when Ethan gets home." With a puff, she grabbed her handbag. "Fine, but don't think this is over." I collapsed onto the bed as soon as she was gone, feeling too much for the mess and the argument that followed. Ethan texted me as soon as my phone buzzed, saying, "Mom said you kicked her out. What is happening?" I groaned and said, "Your mother broke in and looked through everything we had. When you get home, we should chat." I cleaned the bedroom for hours on end, my rage building. I braced myself as I heard the front door open. Ethan emerged, appearing hesitant. "I'm sorry for being late, darling." "Would you perhaps elaborate on why your mother was robbing our bedroom?" With my arms folded, I questioned. With a groan, he combed through his hair. "She claimed to require my birth certificate for a reason related to insurance. It's probably in the filing cabinet," I told her. "And without telling me, you gave her the key to our home?" With a widening of his gaze, Ethan saw my frustration. I didn't think it was a big deal. She's my mom, Alice." "Ethan, it's a huge deal," I firmly retorted. "She infringed upon our privacy. She looked through my belongings." He extended his hands. All right. I will speak with her, but you are aware of her nature. Most likely, she meant no harm." I gave him a disbelieving look. "Are you seriously backing her right now?" "No," Ethan replied, raising his voice. "I'm just saying maybe you're exaggerating a little." His remarks really struck home for me. Excessive sensitivity? You think I'm exaggerating because your mother broke into our house? Ethan grew stern-faced. "What do you know? I just can't handle this at this time. I'm spending the night at my mother's. Once you've cooled down, we can discuss." He rushed out, leaving our bedroom empty and me by myself. With a sickening sense, I realized that this was far from finished. Amelia had caused a rift between us, and I feared that it was just the start. I woke up the following morning alone, with the house's silence overwhelming me. That night, Ethan had not returned home. He texted me, "Staying at Mom's for a while," as my phone buzzed. "We require distance." As I prepared for work, I had a knot in my gut. How could things have gone so wrong so fast? When I attempted to call Ethan, the call went directly to voicemail. At work, I was having trouble focusing. Emily, my coworker, realized that I was preoccupied. "Alice, are you all right? You appear to have witnessed a ghost?" I rubbed my temples and sighed. "Yesterday, my mother-in-law broke into our home. Ethan is now living with her." Emily's gaze expanded. "What? That is absurd. How will you proceed?" My cell phone rang before I could respond. The name of Ethan flickered on the screen, saying, "I have to take this. I ducked into a vacant conference room. "Ethan, what's going on?" My voice trembled as I asked. "I'm stopping by to get some clothes from the house. I'll be there for lunch," he said, his tone impassive. "What do you mean, wait? How long do you intend to remain at your mother's house?" I applied pressure. "I'm not sure, Alice. Until you can figure out a way to get along with her," he snapped back, interrupting me. It was as though I had taken a punch to the gut. "But she's the one who—" He abruptly ended the call, interrupting me. The remainder of the morning passed slowly. Ethan's car was already in the driveway when I arrived home. Arming myself, I walked inside the home. Ethan was packing quickly into a duffel bag as he was in our bedroom. When I spoke, he hardly gave me a look. "Ethan, please," I begged, my voice cracking. "Can we talk about this?" He used more effort than needed to zip up the bag. "There's nothing to discuss. You're forcing me to pick between you and my mother because you overreacted. That's not fair," he yelled, his voice full of rage. "Ethan, she infringed upon our privacy. How are you blind to that?" I begged. With his eyes sparkling, he turned to face me. "My mom would never intentionally harm us. It's you who has consistently ignored her and shown her contempt." I was overcome with disbelief as I gazed at him. "Are you for real this time? After all of her actions?" Ethan took up the burden with a resolute attitude. "I believe it would be better if I spent some time with Mom. Perhaps taking a break will allow us to view things more clearly." I had a terrible thought as he walked by me. "Wait, did you tell her she could come here anytime she wants?" I just needed his hesitancy as an answer. "This is unbelievable," I muttered. "You're choosing her over me." Ethan's mouth tightened. "I am not making a choice. All I'm trying to do is maintain harmony. By allowing her to trample me? By discrediting my emotions?" Tears were running down my face as I shook my head. "Ethan, you're distorting everything. I really need some space for this reason." I was left alone in our home after Ethan left. The whole weight of the circumstance fell on me. My husband had deserted me, taken sides with his mother, and exposed me to her harassment. I fell on the ground sobbing uncontrollably. How could my life have flipped so drastically so fast? The house seemed enormous, with each vacant room serving as a sobering reminder of Ethan's absence. Amelia texted me, and my phone chimed. "Dear, I hope you're happy now. Ethan filled me in on everything. Rest assured, I'll look after him well." I felt a rush of anger that immediately overshadowed my sadness. After deleting the message and not answering, I gave Emily a call. "Can you come over?" Shaking my voice, I questioned. "I need a friend right now." I glanced at our bedroom while I waited for Emily to come. Everything brought back memories of Ethan and our shared life. Now, though, Amelia's presence and Ethan's betrayal seemed to tarnish everything. I reached into my closet and touched all of Ethan's clothing. Then I snatched them all and stuffed them into a box with an abrupt determination. It's okay if he preferred his mother over me, but I was not going to allow them to continue trampling all over me. I was going to reclaim my life and this house as mine. The sudden promotion was a welcome diversion from the gloom that had overtaken my life. I observed my reflection in the mirror as I stood there. Even though the bags under my eyes revealed many restless nights, I was determined to rejoice today. Then, with an abrupt resolution, I grabbed them all and shoved them into a box. If he would rather have his mother than me, that's fine. However, I refused to let them keep stomping all over me. I was going to take back this house and my life. The unexpected promotion provided a much-needed break from the despair that had taken over my life. I stood there staring at my reflection in the mirror. I was determined to celebrate today, even if the bags under my eyes were a testament to many sleepless nights. It was then that I spotted her. Amelia pretended to window shop across the street, but her gaze was always on me. My stomach fell out. For what duration had she been pursuing me? I picked up my pace and turned the corner, holding onto my shopping bag. I turned to see Amelia still there, following me like a shadow. I shook my hands and struggled with my car keys. I went inside, locked the doors, and inhaled deeply. What was she playing at? I hung the coat in my closet and ran my fingers over the plush material, muttering to myself. It was more than just a luxury purchase. It was a representation of my accomplishment and freedom. I was startled when the doorbell rang. I stepped forward slowly and looked through the spy hole. Ethan uneasily shifted as he stood on the porch. I slightly opened the door. "What do you have in mind?" I asked, maintaining a forceful tone. His voice was low as he inquired, "Can I step in? We need to talk." I let him in, against my better judgment. Ethan's gaze swept through the space, finally settling on the boutique shopping bag. "New clothes?" he inquired, his tone slightly acerbic. "I've been promoted," I announced while crossing my arms. "I wanted to enjoy it." It clouded Ethan's face. "Must be pleasant, focusing on your professional life while our marriage falls apart." I yelled, "That's hilarious coming from you. You're the one who moved out, recall." His displeasure was obvious as he ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't come here to fight, you see. You were out shopping today, Mom told me. Alice, she's concerned about you. Both of us are." It seemed as if someone had drenched me in freezing water. "She told you so she had been following me?" Ethan spoke in frustration. "It's only that she happened to see you." "And she got back to you right away," I added, raising my voice. "Do you not see how screwed up this is?" Ethan's mouth tightened. "You're acting suspiciously. Mom is merely worried. She's not concerned." I cut him off. "You're giving in to her obsession. That's sufficient." "I'm done with your claims," yelled Ethan. "I came here to try and make peace, but clearly that was a waste." I collapsed onto the couch with my head in my hands as he rushed out, slamming the door behind him. I lost the happiness I'd had earlier and was left with a sickening worry. I couldn't get rid of the picture of Amelia observing me and telling Ethan everything I did. I felt suddenly vulnerable in my house, my haven. I reached into my wardrobe for the coat, hands trembling. Amelia's curious gaze seemed to have tarnished its brilliance. I had to defend it, shield it from her encroachment. Something occurred to me. I would get a strong place to safely store my possessions. Now, it was more than simply the coat. It was about taking back my security and privacy. A notice appeared on my phone as I was doing internet research on safes. "I hope you enjoy your new coat, dear," came from an unknown text message. It would be unfortunate if something were to happen to it. My blood became cold. Although Amelia did not sign anything, I knew she had gone too far. I wouldn't disregard it this time. I hesitated to take up my phone when I saw Ethan's number. What use would it serve? Never would he trust me over his mother. No, this was now my fight, and I was going to win it, Ethan or not. The day before I left on my work trip, the strongbox came. I felt a mixture of relief and melancholy as I ran my fingers over its chilly metal. How had things ended up here? I took my new coat and other valuables and carefully locked them away in my own house. Ethan's face flickered on the screen as my phone chimed. I was still determining if I answered. "Are you there, Alice?" He sounded forced in his voice. "I am here," I answered in an impartial tone. "Mom told me that you purchased a safe. Is that accurate?" I shut my eyes, trying not to get angry. Amelia had, of course, been keeping an eye on the house. "Yes, that is true, Ethan, and it is none of your business." He let out a deep sigh. "Alice, do you not think that this is going too far? It's only a coat, really." "The coat is not the issue," I yelled. "It's about respect and privacy, something neither you nor your mother seem to get." A prolonged silence ensued. Ethan's voice was icy when he spoke once more. This journey makes sense, in my opinion. Before I could reply, the telephone went silent. We both need time to ponder. I had a hollow feeling in my chest as I glanced at the phone. How could we have gotten so different? I double-checked the strongbox the following morning before heading to the airport. I saw Amelia's car parked down the street as I secured the front door. My teeth tightened. Permit her to observe. I had nothing to conceal. The conference was a haze of networking and presentations. Alone in my hotel room at night, the reality of my circumstances struck me hard. I was grabbing my phone and looking through old pictures of Ethan and me together before Amelia got in the way. We looked happy and in love. I got an SMS from Emily on the third day. "Hey, how are things going? Amelia has been spending a lot of time at your house." My heart pounded. I gave Emily a call right away. "What do you mean?" I asked, attempting to maintain a steady tone. "I've seen her car parked nearby a few times," Emily stated. "And yesterday I swear I saw her attempting to look through your windows." My thoughts were spinning. "Emily, I need you to help me out. Could you check on the residence?" Emily returned the call after an hour. "I'm sorry, Alice. When I went to check, the rear door was ajar. I believe there has been a visitor." The entire globe appeared to be tilted. "Did you enter?" "No, I wasn't trying to become involved." "Do I need to call the police?" Shutting my eyes, I resisted the need to panic. "No, not just yet. I'm heading back home. In a few hours, I'll be there." Mind racing, I reserved the first available flight back. Had Amelia managed to get in? Had Ethan allowed her to enter? Or worse? I felt nauseated at the prospect. I glanced at my phone as the plane landed and saw a flurry of messages from Ethan. "Where have you gone? Mom says there was a break-in at the house. Why do you not respond?" I sped through the airport, ignoring them all, and hailed a cab. I felt dreadful the whole way home on the car ride. Upon arriving at my block, I noticed Ethan's vehicle parked in the driveway. My stomach fell out. I heard heated voices inside the front door as I got closer. "Mom, I don't understand how you did this." Ethan's hurt and irritated voice. "Sweetheart, I was just trying to protect you." That lady. As soon as I pushed open the door, the sound stopped. In the living room, Ethan and Amelia turned to look at me. My open strongbox sat on the coffee table between them. Ethan said, his face pallid, "Alice, I can clarify." I wasn't listening, though. I stared at the strongbox with its contents all over the table. My coat was there, tightly held in Amelia's hands. There was a moment when something inside me broke. This was no longer just about a strongbox or a coat. This concerned my life, my union, and my prospects, and I was acutely aware that I needed to make a choice. I glanced at Ethan, then at Amelia, and back at Ethan. With a deadly calm voice, I stated, "You have exactly 1 minute to get her out of my house. After that, you and I will have a discussion that will decide whether or not this marriage has a future at all." The silence that followed my outburst was deafening. Ethan's face paled, while Amelia's eyes narrowed, her grip tightening on my coat. "Alice, please," Ethan started, but I held up my hand. 1 minute, Ethan. The clock's ticking." To his credit, Ethan didn't hesitate. He turned to his mother, gently prying the coat from her hands. "Mom, you need to go now." Amelia's face contorted with anger, but Ethan persisted. "Now, Mom." Ethan ushered Amelia out. I stood rooted to the spot, my eyes fixed on the ransacked strongbox. My hands trembled as I approached it, surveying the damage. The lock had been forced open, the contents strewn about carelessly. After his return, Ethan shut the door. The sound reverberated throughout the home, accentuating the moment's seriousness. "Alice, I didn't—" I spoke up, hardly audible above a whisper. "Did you know she was going to do this?" All Ethan had to do was remain silent. Something inside me snapped, like the last strand of trust. "How can you, Ethan?" My voice rising, I asked. "How could you let her damage our home like this?" With a look of frustration on his face, he ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't anticipate that she would really enter. She expressed her desire to inquire about the situation during your absence." "Exactly why?" I said it again, skeptically. "By breaking into our safe?" Ethan looked from me to the strongbox and back again. I mentioned the safety to her. Alice, I was concerned about you. You've been acting really suspiciously recently." The words struck me like a blow to the body. I'm the one who's paranoid. Your mother has been breaking into our home and following me? "Alice, that's not what I meant," Ethan retracted. Simply said, "I fail to see why you required a safe in the first place. What do you have hidden from me?" I was overcome with disbelief as I gazed at him. "Nothing is hidden from you, Ethan. I'm defending myself against your mother's compulsive actions, which you continue to allow and support." Ethan grew stern-faced. "Don't discuss my mother in that manner. She's only attempting to help." "Help?" I gave a sour laugh. "By ruining our marriage?" There was a long pause between us. I took a close look at Ethan and noticed a stranger for the first time. The man I married was no longer with me. He had pledged to support me. "I believe you should go," I uttered softly. Ethan's gaze expanded. "What? Come on, Alice. Let's figure this out." I shook my head and felt an odd peace descend upon me. "No, Ethan, we are unable to. Not if you prioritize your mother before our union." "It's unfair," he objected. "I have no preference. You really are—" I forcefully cut him off. "You're picking her every time you justify her behavior and downplay my emotions, and I can no longer live this way." Ethan slouched his shoulders. "What are you uttering?" Taking a deep breath, I prepared myself to say something I never would have imagined to utter. "I'm saying, I want a divorce." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders as soon as I finished speaking. With a look of disbelief on his face, Ethan looked at me. "You aren't saying that," he said hesitantly. "I do," I answered, startled by how steady my voice sounded. "Ethan, I love you, but I love myself even more, and I'm worthy of more than this." I glanced back to the chaos in the living room as Ethan staggered out of the house, appearing to be in shock. My lovely coat was on the ground, rumpled, a victim of Amelia's incursion. I took it up and pressed the wrinkles out. It stood for more than just acknowledging my accomplishments. It now stood for my independence, my dignity, and my resolve to not let my circumstances make me a victim. My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone. Time to give a lawyer a call. I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in months, even though the path ahead would not be easy. I was reclaiming my life. This was my life. As I drove to Amelia's house, the lawyer's comments continued to play in my mind. "Alice, are you certain you want to do this? Rarely do confrontations end well." I clenched my hands around the steering wheel. Not that I knew for sure, but I was sick of being the victim. Ethan's vehicle was parked in the driveway as Amelia's immaculate suburban house towered over me. Taking a deep breath, I marched to the front door and rang the bell as forcefully as felt appropriate. With a startled expression on his face, Ethan said, "Alice, what are you—" I shoved through him and into the home. "Where is she?" With a cheesy look on her face, Amelia emerged from the kitchen. "Alice, dear, what an unexpected pleasure." I yelled at Amelia, "Cut the act. I want my stuff returned, right now." With a confused look on his face, Ethan moved to stand between us. "Alice? What things? What is happening?" I gave a sour laugh. "Oh, Amelia, You didn't tell him? Regarding the way you broke into our home and took my personal items? Amelia's smile wavered briefly before resurfacing with gusto. Dear, I'm very sure I have no idea what you're talking about. Your wife looks quite upset, Ethan. Maybe she should take a nap. Don't patronize me, I yelled, losing all composure. You've been trying to destroy our marriage from day one, and I'm done with it. Ethan's expression turned pale. Alice, please, let's talk about this calmly. Calmly? I said it again, skeptically. Ethan, your mom broke into our house. You're telling me to remain composed as she took my belongings? At last, Amelia's facade gave away. I was defending my son. The woman growled. You've never shown him the respect or consideration he merits. Someone needed to watch out for his rights. I looked up at Ethan, trying to read any encouragement in his face. My heart fell as I observed the uncertainty, perplexity, and, worst of all, a glimmer of agreement with his mother's remarks. Is that what you're believing too, Ethan? Silently, I inquired. That you don't appreciate me? He wavered, and I knew then that our time together was up. Ethan said, I just feel like your work always comes first. Of course she has, I cut in, my annoyance exploding. And you believed her over your own wife. Amelia grinned victoriously. You see, Ethan? You see, I told you that she doesn't get family values. Her career and her designer wardrobe are her only concerns. A part of me broke. My profession? My attire? Is that the main purpose of this? You invaded my privacy and broke into my house because you were envious of my success. With rage coursing through me, I turned to face Ethan. And you gave her assistance. You informed her about the safe and gave her the key. Ethan, how could you? Ethan's expression twisted. I never intended for things to go to this point. All I wanted was... What did you want, Ethan? I made a firm demand, my tone laden with suggestion. He said, I wanted you to pay attention to me. I gazed at the man I believed to be familiar. So you let your mother harass me and invade our home, all because you were unable to interact like an adult? Amelia stepped forward, hate shining in her eyes. Now please, let's not get too worked up. I was just that... With a low, menacing voice, I commanded them to leave. Get out now. Amelia blinked. Excuse me? Get out of my sight before I call the police and have you arrested for breaking, I said. Ethan grabbed me. Alice, please, he begged. I recoiled from his contact. Avoid, just don't, I sternly commanded. A noise outside caught my attention as I turned to leave. The Johnsons, our next-door neighbors, stood on Amelia's lawn, their expressions filled with worry. Is everything okay? It was Mrs. Johnson who called. We heard shouting. I turned to look at Ethan, then at Amelia, and I decided something that would alter my life forever. I made sure the neighbors could hear me say, no, loudly. Not everything is in order. My spouse assisted my mother-in-law in breaking into our house and taking my possessions. I was done listening, drowning out the horrified gasps from outside with Amelia's spluttering in indignation and Ethan's cries of desperation. With my head held high, I left the broken remains of a deceitful and manipulative marriage behind as I walked out of that house. The whole incident weighed heavy on my shoulders as I drove away. I understood that this was only the start of my battle to take back my life. As I brushed down my blouse, my hands trembled, and I caught a glimpse of my determined image in the hallway mirror. The noise from the living room began to reverberate within, a continual reminder of what I was going to do. I'd invited everyone in the neighborhood, our closest friends, and even a couple of Ethan's co-workers. Everyone was entitled to know the reality. I inhaled deeply as I entered the room and felt the quiet conversations abruptly stop as everyone's attention was fixed on me. Seated in the corner, Ethan's expression betrayed a mixture of perplexity and anxiety. Since I hadn't invited Amelia, she wasn't present. This was my chance. I started out by saying, "Thank you all for coming," sounding more composed than I actually felt. "I realize you're wondering why I've brought you all together. I'm here to tell you the truth about what's been happening in our marriage," I said as our eyes met, and I could see panic growing in his expression. There was a general intake of breath in the room. I continued to describe the events of the previous few months, including Amelia's invasions. "Don't believe me when I say that Ethan betrayed me and stole my belongings?" I said as I took out my phone. There was Ethan's own statement that I had recorded I had made in private during our altercation at Amelia's house. A room filled with Ethan's voice. "I never intended for things to go to this point. All I wanted was for you to give me some attention." Murmurs and gasps sprang out. Ethan leaped to his feet, his expression changing. "Alice, please stop. You can't—" "Ethan, what?" I made a challenge, my voice becoming raised. "Unable to speak the truth? Can't reveal how your mother and you have been deceiving me for months?" Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor, raised her voice. "Ethan, is she telling the truth? Were you truly complicit in your mother's break-in?" When Ethan's gaze raced around the room, he saw only shock and disappointment instead of sympathy. "You don't understand, it's not. My mom was merely attempting to be helpful." "Helpful?" I gave a sour laugh. "By taking my belongings? Through ruining our union?" I turned to face the space. I wanted everyone to know that I'm tired of being silent, manipulative, and made to feel crazy for simply wanting privacy and basic respect in my own home. My eyes watered, but I blinked them away. I cherished Ethan. I believed that we were a team, yet he repeatedly favored his mother over our union. Ethan approached me, his face beseeching. "Alice, please, let's figure this out." "I swear, I'll tell Mom to back off." "That's not possible right now," I replied, my voice cracking. "I can no longer do this because you had so many opportunities to stand up for us, for me." I gave Ethan a manila envelope that I had taken out of my backpack. "Ethan, these are the divorce documents," I said. "I'm asking you to move out permanently." Chaos broke out in the room. Some friends came up to me and expressed shock and support, while others confronted Ethan and demanded answers. I held my ground the entire time, experiencing a strange mixture of heartbreak and relief. Ethan came over to talk to me one last time as the throng started to dwindle. His voice barely above a whisper, he questioned, "Is this really what you want?" When I truly looked at Ethan, I saw the man I had fallen in love with and assumed would be my lifelong partner. However, I also saw the man who had deceived me and allowed his mother to stand in our way. "I want to feel safe in my own home and to be respected and trusted," I responded gently. "Can you provide that to me, Ethan?" His quiet was more than sufficient. I noticed him go away, and I felt a burden release from my shoulders. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months, even though the road ahead would not be easy. Amelia texted me and my phone buzzed. "Alice, you're going to regret this. I am Ethan's need, not your." I felt a shiver go down my spine as I glanced at the letter. Amelia wasn't going to give up easily. This wasn't over. However, when I turned to face my friends who had remained to encourage me, I understood that I was no longer alone. I was prepared to face whatever came next. The next day, I observed Ethan packing his things in our shared bedroom and had a complicated combination of resolution and melancholy. Every object he put in a box felt like a more serious blow to our union. Ethan whispered, "You don't have to do this, Alice. Things can still be worked out." With a calm voice, I shook my head. "We're not able to, Ethan. Not after all that has transpired." With a groan, his shoulders drooped. "I love you, even though I know I messed up. Is that not significant enough?" "Love is insufficient," I answered. "Not in the absence of respect or trust." We looked outside when there was a sudden disturbance. We hurried to the window to witness Amelia, wearing a furious mask, charging up the driveway. "I won't let you do this!" Amelia yelled at a volume that the entire neighborhood could hear. "Ethan, you can't let her win!" Ethan's expression turned pale. He glanced at his mother and then back at me. The fight between the son he'd always been and the man he wanted to be was evident in his eyes. He muttered, "I have to deal with this," and went downstairs. With a pounding heart, I followed. This was it, the real deal. As soon as Ethan opened the front door, Amelia raced through. "How dare you?" she growled at me. "Everyone is now against us because of you. Everything is wrecked by you." Ethan responded, "No, Mom," in a voice I hadn't heard in months. "You carried that out. That is what we did." Amelia recoiled as if someone had slapped her. "What are you talking about?" "Alice is right," I'm saying. "We were in error. I'm done doing this. You were mistaken." "But Ethan," Amelia said, her voice shaking, "I'm your mother. My only concern is for your well-being." "Letting Alice go is the best thing for me," replied Ethan, speaking gently. There was an unbearable silence for a while. Amelia's face was a whirlwind of emotions as she looked at Ethan and then at me. "You'll regret this," she spit out and turned to face the door. "You two, you'll see that you need me." My shoulders began to lighten as the door shut behind her. For the first time in months, I could clearly see Ethan when I turned to face him. He said, "I'm sorry," with tears in his eyes. "For all of it. You were worthy of better." I felt my own eyes well up as I nodded. "Yes, I did, but Ethan, you also did. I'm hoping you can now see that." He carried the final box he owned. "I do, and I hope eventually you can forgive me." A peculiar calmness overcame me as I watched Ethan drive off. The home was silent, but it was no longer stuffy. Now it was mine, really mine. I went to the closet and took out the expensive coat that I had purchased to commemorate my promotion, which Amelia had taken and from which I had since regained. I put it on and enjoyed the feeling of accomplishment and warmth it brought. I was standing in front of a mirror and could hardly identify the woman who was looking back at me. She appeared more assured and powerful. She had the appearance of someone who had overcome her worries. "How are you doing now?" was the text message from Emily that buzzed my phone. I replied with a smile, "I'm fine. Better than okay, I think. I'm at liberty." I understood the truth in those remarks as soon as I pushed submit. I felt liberated, unaccountable from coercion, uncertainty, and the need to apologize for who I was. There would be no easy journey ahead. There would be doubtful times, awkward chats, and lonely evenings. But I was excited about the future for the first time in a long time. After grabbing my keys, I left the house. I was prepared to meet the world head-on, my way, and on my terms. I said a gentle goodbye to the life I was leaving behind as I locked the door behind me. I was excited to see what would happen in this new chapter of my life, one in which I was the writer of my own tale.